Coming up on Network Africa, 16 people crushed to death at a stadium in Madagascar during Independence Day celebrations. Ethiopian police arrest 56 members of an Amara political party following a failed coup attempt in the province. Plus, the first China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo opens in the central Chinese city of Changsha. Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shovuale. Begin today in Madagascar, where at least 16 people have been crushed to death at a stadium in the capital during Independence Day celebrations. Reports say the crush happened as people tried to leave the stadium after a parade and police closed the venue's doors. Dozens of people were also injured at the stadium in Antananarivo, the country's capital. President Andre Rajoelina, who has visited victims in hospitals, says the state will cover the medical cost of those injured. Last September, a crowd surge during a football match at the same stadium killed one person and injured more than 30. In Tunisia, a police officer has been killed and several people wounded in a suicide bomb attack in the capital, Tunis. Officials say a suicide bomber blew himself up in the front of a police patrol in Charles de Gaulle Street, close to the French embassy. 2 police officers and 3 civilians were injured, according to officials. A second attacker blew himself up shortly afterwards near a police station in the capital's Al-Kajani district. 4 people were wounded in that attack. No group has claimed responsibility for the violence. Still in North Africa, Libya's internationally recognized government says it has retaken the strategic town of Gharyan following clashes with insurgent forces. Gharyan was the main supply base for an offensive on the capital Tripoli by fighter led by General Khalifa Haftar. His Libyan National Army has not yet confirmed the loss and details are still emerging. Libya has been torn by violence and division since longtime ruler Gaddafi was ousted and killed in 2011. Dozens have died since the LNA began its campaign earlier this year against the UN-backed government of National Accord, which is led by Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj. Now, the UN Special Representative for South Sudan says the peace agreement in the country continues to hold as there is a drop in political violence. While addressing the Security Council, David Scherer says many displaced families have decided it is safe and the time is right to return to their homes.
The UN Special Representative of the Secretary General for South Sudan, David Scherer, says that the latest food security analysis in the country remains dire, with some 7 million people facing crisis levels or worse.
The drop-off in political violence, based on the trend of past years, has meant hundreds, if not thousands of people are alive who would otherwise not be. Many displaced families have decided it is safe and time to return to their homes.
Scherer stresses that the desire for peace in the country is palpable and there's a fierce aversion to any renewal of fighting. However, he observes that the pace of dialogue and peace building at the grassroots level is moving much faster than amongst the elites negotiating nationally.
Mr. President, we should be frank. The fighting has stopped because the leaders ordered their soldiers to stop. If it resumes against the will of the people, it will be because those same leaders want it and ordered it to happen.
Lydia Minagano is the project manager at the South Sudan Peace Implementation Monitoring Initiative. She says the conflict in our country is deeply rooted in gender inequality.
Women make the majority of my country's population, and South Sudan cannot afford to ignore us. Giving us the resources we need to participate in the future of our country will directly contribute to South Sudan's peace, stability and development.
Nevertheless, the South Sudan ambassador reiterates that confidence-building measures between the peace agreement signatories are improving steadily.
While Dr. Yang Machar is not in Juba, I can assure the Council that there are close contact going on between him and President Salva Kiir. We were all, of course, disappointed that we were hoping that they will fly together from Rome to Juba. Nevertheless, we think he will be in Juba soon, before November.
Since December 2013, brutal conflict in South Sudan has claimed thousands of lives and driven nearly 4 million people from their homes. While many remain displaced inside the country, more than 2 million have fled to neighboring countries in a desperate bid to reach safety.
Now, the police in Ethiopia have arrested 56 members of an Amhara political party following a failed attempt to seize power in the province. A spokesman for the National Movement of Amhara says the arrest took place in the national capital, Addis Ababa. The party has become increasingly popular among the ethnic group that comprises around a quarter of Ethiopia's population. Since its founding last year, the party has emerged as a rival to an Amhara party in the ruling EPRDF coalition. It has condemned the violence that took place in the region and denies any link to an attempt to seize power there. Kenyan lawmaker Charles Kanyi has appeared in court after being detained on Wednesday following comments he made that some have described as xenophobic. In a widely shared clip, he appeared to threaten foreign businesses, people with violence. Mr. Kanyi later said that his comments had been misunderstood. The magistrate has ordered that the MP should spend a second night in a police cell, and the hearing will take place on Friday. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping has sent a letter to congratulate the first China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo, which opened today in Changsha, capital city of central China's Hunan province. Mr. Xi says the expo, announced at the Beijing summit of the Forum on the China-Africa Cooperation last September, was established to provide a platform for deepening economic and trade cooperation between the two sides. The first China-Africa Economic and Trade Expo brings together the Chinese and African governments, think tanks, enterprises and financial institutions to discuss major cooperation projects. Let's get more on this from an economist and CEO of Cowrie Assets Management Limited, Mr. Johnson Chiku. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. So 53 African countries are participating at the China-Africa Trade Expo. But what is the significance of this event for the continent?
For me, I think it's enough for African countries to really redefine the terms of their engagement with China. As it stands today, the relations between African countries and Chinese government and Chinese entities is basically that of trade, where Africans are exporting raw materials and importing finished goods from China. We have a huge trading balance between China and Africa. And I think this should give African leaders the opportunity to present to the Chinese government and Chinese entities the need for them to also come to Africa and set up their manufacturing in Africa, so as to reduce the level of imbalance in trade between the two, the Chinese country, China and the African continent.
Yeah, I want to pick on something you just mentioned now. China is Africa's largest trading partner, but it exports far more than it imports. How can this imbalance be rectified?
Well, that's why I refer to in the first place. The African countries only export raw materials to China and import finished goods in the form of mostly electronics from China. Unfortunately, the African economy do not have the infrastructure that will support manufacturing efficiency the level we have in China. So one of the things that Africans can actually get from China is for the Chinese companies to come here, while the Chinese government will support the infrastructure build. Unfortunately, so again, the support that we're getting from China in terms of infrastructure build are coming in the form of debt. That is beginning to overburden some African countries. But basic thing is for us to have some level of balance between in trade balance between the two trading partners. Then more manufacturing activity must take place in Africa. Chinese companies should be able to see these opportunities that the huge market in Africa, about 1.2 billion consumers, at some point set up manufacturing activity here instead of just exporting China goods. of finished goods to Africa.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson, early this week, the Chinese foreign minister denied reports that Beijing is creating debt traps for African countries. But an IMF report says Africa is facing another potential debt crisis, with around 40% of low-income countries in the region now in debt distress or at high risk of it. How do you reconcile this?
Well, the reality is that some African countries are over-indebted to China. It is not that all African countries are heavily indebted to China, but we have some African countries that are heavily indebted to China, whose current earnings, the foreign earnings, they find it difficult to pay their debts. Take for example Angola. Angola is owing more than 25 billion to the Chinese government and Chinese entities, for which Angola's crude oil export is largely going to China to pay all that debt. We also have a high incidence of debt in Ethiopia, Congo Democratic Republic, Kenya, and a few other African countries that are highly indebted to China. The challenge you have with the Chinese debt is not because debt from China is not good. It's because the level of transparency and accountability for those debts is not high. So you find out that the African countries are going on a borrowing beat because they're not being compelled to meet minimum credit standards. And for that reason, they don't really bother about the implications of those debts to future generations. So my take is that this engagement at the trade expo should also be an opportunity for African countries to come together and say, look, we need to instill some level of rigor in the terms of engagement of this loan, so that we do not have a situation where governments in Africa will borrow so much beyond their capacity to pay back, just because there are no stringent conditions attached to those loans.
All right, then, Mr. Johnson Chiku, CEO of Cowrie Assets Management Limited, thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa. Now, Zimbabwe's central bank has reassured gold companies and people receiving money transfers that they will still be able to receive foreign currency in their bank accounts after a ban takes effect in shops. On Monday, Zimbabwe declared its interim RTGS dollar the only legal tender, ending the decade-long use of multiple currencies, including the US dollar. President Emmerson Mnangagwa says the move is an important step to repair the economy, but it has caused confusion among small and big businesses. A follow-up with currency traders, business owners, unions and ordinary customers on Zimbabwe's decision to make its interim currency the country's sole legal tender, ending a decade of dollarization. The decision risks causing confusion and panic, considering that many businesses were using US dollar sales to fund imports of stock, and workers have been demanding to be paid in US dollars because the interim local currency has been losing value.
The situation will be worse. We have reached a point of no return, so we can no longer run these businesses that we own or even afford to restock.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa's government last month agreed a staff-monitored program with the International Monetary Fund, whereby the fund will help Zimbabwe implement coherent economic policies. Analysts are skeptical that the latest currency reforms will be a quick fix for the deep problems that have constrained economic growth in the southern African country.
We believe that this is not a good idea. The timing is bad. The country is not ready for its local currency. This is going to backfire. In fact, it's going to take us back to the road we traveled in 2008, 2009.
Zimbabwe abandoned its own dollar in 2009 after years of hyperinflation had destroyed trust in the local unit.
This new currency is making things difficult for me because of the hikings of the prices in shops. We can't afford. All these things are very, very high.
The IMF has said Zimbabwe should quickly allow the RTGS dollar to float freely, allow exporters to sell dollars at the interbank rate rather than surrender them to the central bank, and raise interest rates to curb inflation. Many Zimbabweans complain that goods and services are still priced in other currencies. While more than 80% of Zimbabweans earn RTGS dollars, goods ranging from bricks to groceries have their prices pegged in US dollars. To add to its woes, the southern African nation has endured its worst rolling power cuts in 3 years, with analysts saying the cuts will hurt economic revival efforts. Still to come on the program. Women in Rwanda break into the male-dominated world of motorbike taxis. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.